Hey everyone, my name is Najad, and in today's video I'm going to show you the top 5 apps that I use for my phone when it comes to filmmaking and photography. So instead of just covering the apps that everybody talks about like Filmic Pro and VSCO, I thought I'd shed some light on some different apps that I use even more frequently than those. So I'll start off with the one photography app that I really like, and it's actually just the Lightroom CC app. And although you can edit your photos in this app, I actually use it more for the photo feature because you can actually shoot DNG raw photos with the Lightroom app. I shoot a lot of my photos for Instagram on the Lightroom app, and then I process them there, and then I send it over to my grading app like VSCO or Afterlight. So again, I don't really do that much photography. I do still like it and I dabble with it every once in a while, but so these next apps are going to be apps that'll help you in your filmmaking process. So the first app that I want to talk about is actually one that I use a lot when I film weddings. Usually when I book a client, I always go to the location that I'm going to be shooting at, whether it be a church or just an outside venue, and I kind of see where I'm going to be setting up one of my cameras for the down the aisle shot, which I typically always do for weddings. And when I go there, I always like to use this app. This is called the Magic Sony Viewfinder, but really there's a bunch of different apps that are similar to this. But what this one does is it actually shows me different examples of what different lenses will look like on certain sensors. So this one's mainly designed for Sony cameras. Even though I don't really use Sony cameras that much, you can pick the sensor size of the camera that you're shooting with and then scroll up and down for the different lens focal lengths. So if I was going to rent a lens or something like that and I wanted to know what focal length I needed, I would stand at the spot where I think I would have my tripod set up, and then I'd use this Viewfinder app to see what focal length of a lens I should rent. So if I was super far away, maybe I would need a 70 to 200, but if I was closer, I could probably just get away with a 50 or an 85mm prime. So that's definitely a useful app to have, and I would definitely recommend getting an app like this. But like I said, there are a few more apps that are similar to this that'll give you an example of different focal lengths on different sensor sizes. So this next app is going to be one that I actually use for taking videos with my phone. I don't usually shoot a lot of video on my phone, but when I do, there are a few apps that I like to use. Like I said, Filmic Pro is a really popular one, but the one that I actually been using a lot more than Filmic Pro is actually the Moment camera app, and it just is a lot easier to use. It glitches a lot less, and in my opinion, it's a lot easier to set all your settings like your shutter speed and your ISO within the Moment app than it is within Filmic Pro. The only thing you don't get in the Moment app is like flat picture profiles like you can buy on the Filmic Pro app, but honestly, I think that the Moment app is just so much easier to use, and it gives me consistent results as opposed to setting stuff up on Filmic Pro. Sometimes if I just accidentally touch on a different part of the screen, I can just reset all my settings, which I really don't like. So I use the Moment app a lot for shooting videos. So this next app I use every once in a while, and I use it mostly for white balance, and it is the Light Meter app. Now this app isn't perfect, but I usually, like I said, use it for white balance. It will tell you the shutter speed that you'll need to shoot at depending on what aperture you want to have, and then vice versa. You can set your shutter speed, then it'll tell you what aperture you should shoot in to get a correct exposure. This could be really good if you're shooting like film or something like that. Like I said, it's not perfect, but in my experience, the white balance is more or less where I need it to be. So that's what I use it for the most. I've actually set this shot right now using the white balance from the Light Meter app. So it does work in most situations. So the last app in this list is one that I have talked about before on this channel, but it's the only app that I've actually found that can disable the image stabilization on iPhones. That's the one kind of sucky thing about iPhones, is that they have an image stabilization that you can't really bypass with most apps, except for this one. This is the ProCam app. If for some reason anyone at ProCam is watching this video, I really wish you would fix your user interface and fix all the glitches that happen within this app, because it would be really great if it worked properly 100% of the time, which unfortunately it doesn't. But when I'm using phone gimbals like the Smooth Q or the Osmo Mobile, I always use the ProCam app and shoot in the 4K max option, because when you're shooting in that, it gives you a 4K, but you don't have the image stabilization that's built into iPhones and gives you those micro jitters, which I absolutely hate. Using the 4K max option in the ProCam app is really the only way to get around that. I have seen other people like affix like a magnet to the back end of their iPhone, and that kind of disables the image stabilization within iPhones. But honestly, that just is a little bit too cumbersome, and I don't shoot with gimbals on my iPhone enough to really want to do that. So I just use the ProCam app and shoot in the 4K Max. There are a lot of problems if you don't get your exposure perfect, but all in all, it's a pretty good app to use if you want to bypass that image stabilization feature. So yeah, those are my top 5 apps that I use the most for photography and filmmaking on my iPhone. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you hit the like button, and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more content. As always, there's links in the description to a bunch of gear that I use and recommend, as well as a link to my Selfie account if you want to buy some of my $5 LUTs. And you can also support me on Patreon as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you all in the next video. Bye.